Hi everybody, I'm Michelle Wright and you're watching Canadian Beats.
Hi everyone, Linda Heldman here for Canadian Beats. I have with me the very lovely Michelle Wright.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me today
Thank you.
to do this.
Nice to see you again. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
It's so cool for someone who has been a fan for so many years of yours to finally get the opportunity with working with Canadian Beats now to interview you.
Well, I can appreciate that. I'm a fan of a lot of people too, and or a handful anyhow, that I'm like, I can't hardly talk when I'm around them. And Keith Urban is one of them, just saying.
Oh, well, yes. he leaves me a little breathless.
Right.
But we all start out as fans. That's why we're
Yes.
here and we do what we do. And some of us are lucky enough to get into aspects of it and work within the business, which is great.
It's lovely.
You have been part of the music industry for, well, you started when you were like a youngster.
Actually, this year, I'm 36 years on the road this year, as of July. Of course, the first 10 years or so, you travel with not too many people knowing about you, and hopefully, if you're lucky enough, you get to, have some hits and people get to support what you do. So 36 years right now.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it's
That's awesome.
So thankful.
You have had quite the career. That was honored in 2011 at the Canadian Country Music Awards, where you received your Canadian Country Music Hall of Fame award.
Yes.
That must have been a wonderful experience.
It's just, to be honest, it's not something I ever thought about or visualized or planned for, and I guess it would be kind of, I don't know, that might seem a little too full of yourself to even imagine such a thing. And so it was a pleasant surprise when they called me and asked me if I would accept this year's nomination for the Hall of Fame, artist for the Hall of Fame. So.
No.
And you don't say no to that, do you?
No,
mean, I thought maybe
no.
I was a little young. Maybe I thought, well, maybe 10 more years from now. But I thought, don't you even say that. Say yes with grace, and you take it, and it has been way more fun than I imagined it would be,
And this year, Paul Brandt is getting that honor.
Apparently, he said the same thing. He was like, I'm a bit young, but yes, I'll take it. Thank you very much. I'm really happy for him. Of course, you'll be happy for anybody.
Oh,
Any artist, or they also have an industry category as well for people that work behind the scenes, and it's just lovely. And so to see Paul, who I think is one of our just great artists, who has a lot of character and a lot of class in his own style.
He does.
He represents Canada in a way that I'm very proud of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you're currently living in Nashville, but you're from southwestern Ontario.
Yes.
And what was that transitioning like when you decided to make that move to Nashville? And you still call Canada home, and you're back often.
Yes.
But
Well, I'm from a little small town called Merlin, Ontario, population 500, and it's just outside of the Chatham area, between Windsor and Chatham. And we were farmers, and I loved that life. But I really always had my eye on Nashville as an artist, to be able to go there and represent somehow, get a record deal, because I always knew that part of the business is really, really important. That if you want to keep scraping by forever, you can play the club 6 nights a week, which is fine, but if you want to dream the dream, you do have to find a way to get a record deal somehow, some way. And if it's a deal that can allow you to travel the world, be an international artist, then your odds of being successful sort of increase a little bit, because you've got to be able to expose yourself to as many people as you can. So when the dream came true that I got to go to Nashville, the transition was relatively easy for me, because I had always been imagining it. It was almost like I belonged there, but a privilege on the other hand. And the other thing that made it so lovely is that when I got my record deal, I brought my entire team from Canada with me. I didn't get the deal and then leave everybody and say, thank you very much, I'm leaving now. I brought them all with me, the band, the management, and continued to work with my publicists up here in Canada. And then we kind of toured all the time, so we were hardly ever in Nashville. We were just on the bus going from town to town. So the transition was relatively simple, and the other thing that made it great is that there's a lot of wonderful Canadian artists and writers and people down there.
Oh,
so
there
we
are.
had this circle of, actually quite frankly, almost all of my friends that are there down in Nashville are Canadians, with a few exceptions, and
Patricia Conroy,
well, yeah, and
we
just
love
so
Patty.
yeah, and I love Patricia's one of my. Besides being incredibly talented, she's a wonderful human being. So it was almost meant to be. If you ask me, I felt like I belonged there, and I think it's important to have Canadians down there representing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
There's so many of you I know.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
just incredible.
And I'm really happy too that Canadians understand that, we're not abandoning our country. We're just simply taking advantage of an opportunity and trying to make it as successful as we can.
I'm
Yes.
surprised you haven't all pulled your money and got a Tim Hortons down there.
Well, we need one, because I do crave my Tim Hortons, I must say. Oh my gosh, that's our go-to place when we're on the road.
As soon as you
hit
hit Ontario.
And I love their chicken
Canada.
wraps. Those new chicken
Oh,
wraps
they are
they have
good,
are
aren't
so
they?
good. And I
They
love
are.
their coffee too. And I'm a bit of a coffee snob. I like that coffee.
Have you tried their new lattes?
I've not, but
They're good.
the airport tomorrow morning I'll try that. Yeah.
My favorite right now
Yes.
is a caramel shot in their latte. It is so good.
All right.
So good.
I'll
I
take
love
your advice.
Derek Rattan, he says the door's always open. You come down to Nashville,
Yeah.
just bring a couple of red cans with
That's
you.
all
when
you need.
come.
Yeah, makes us happy.
Oh, that's great. Now, I live in Sudbury. I'm not born and raised there, but I currently live there. You have some Sudbury roots.
Yes, I do. Well, my mom lived there, for about 14 years. She had a restaurant there called The Right Place on LaSalle. I don't know if that building is even there anymore, but she was also a real estate agent with Remax, which she's pretty much done besides farming, as we did down in southern Ontario when I was a kid. But yeah, when I would come off the road, because again we played those clubs for about 9 years. It'd just be a circus and a circle that we would do, and I would come home and hang out on Mom's couch when there wasn't a place to play maybe that week. And Sudbury was very good to me as far as it's a real music community. At least there was a tavern called the Kingsway Tavern at the time. Now it's been torn down
It's
as well.
not.
And that was a real place.
Colson.
Yeah, and we all would hang and play music. And they actually had a couple of country music festivals there. And in like 1983 or so, I won a contest at one of those talent contests at one of those festivals, and I got to do the Tommy Hunter show as a result of
Nice.
winning that contest. So that Tommy Hunter show was a pretty a legendary music show that you could do if you were lucky enough. So Sudbury has wonderful memories for me. Yeah.
And since I've been there for the past 8 years, it's interesting to see the talent that's come out of there. Of
Yes.
course, Bill Grant, Jake
Yes,
Matthews.
yes, of course.
We've got new artists coming up.
Yeah.
Andrew Hyatt. I don't know if you've heard anything
I'm not
from
familiar
Andrew.
yet, but
There is the music is just very strong music community.
it's wonderful.
It's
I'm
fantastic.
not surprised.
Yeah. Now I wanted to talk to you about being a female in the country music industry. And some of the hurdles, because right now I know there's a lot of wonderful female artists out there and bands that are really struggling to get heard.
Yeah.
Have things changed, do you think, in that respect from when you were coming up?
Well, traditionally and statistically, that's always been a problem. And in the 90s, when I just think I came up in a magical time, because for some reason those barriers were really coming down, and we had Trisha Yearwood and Patty Loveless and Faith Hill and myself, and there really wasn't a lot of Canadian girls at that time. I was sort of the rare Canadian girl getting a shot, but there was Terry Clark and Shania Twain and Mary Chapin Carpenter and Kathy Mattea, and I could literally give you a list of 20 women right now that were regularly being played on the radio. And so I have to tell you that it breaks my heart that young girls that are tremendously talented it's like we've gone backwards 40 years or something, and they're having to fight this fight just to be heard. And statistically, once again, it's not girls complaining, it's just a fact that they're not being played. And recently I've seen a little bit of it, but the Canadian girls there's some tremendous talent there with Jess and Megan Patrick, who's out there, and Madeline Merlot, and there's a few other young gals. So I do think that the talent right now is indicating and getting a bit more support. but it still breaks my heart. You know, I want these young girls to fulfill that dream, and we girls want to hear what they're singing about,
Exactly,
right?
exactly, because it puts that feminine touch.
Yeah.
Do you have any words of wisdom for those young ladies that are pursuing their music careers?
Well, my goodness, you know, it's very challenging, you know, because if your back is up against the wall and you're fighting, but the door is slammed shut, it must be incredibly difficult to not get discouraged, you know, because I just never had to really deal with that as much, although it existed. So the best thing I can say and the best advice I can give, I mean, if you can keep pursuing, and you got to be able to pay your bills though. I mean, these young ladies, you know, you can't be out there making records and trying to be heard and spending money after money after money and not getting heard and not getting concerts and not, you know, it's really complicated. But if you can find a way, keep your bills paid and keep trying, I think you have to. You can't, I don't think you can't not, but I can imagine that. I know I've actually talked with a couple of young girls going, I got to go get a day job because I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And so that's challenging, you know. So I guess I could just say, you know, keep doing it if you can. And if you do have to get a day job maybe and put aside a little bit of money and go back out there and try again, or revisit what might not be working, but then that's not a really fair thing to say either, because there's a lot of great music being made by the girls that aren't being heard. So you just got to keep going as long as you can, I think.
It's timing. I know
Yeah,
there's a time and place for everything.
You know, I get asked to do you know, conferences and things like that and talk about the music business, and I kind of don't want to do them because if you want to talk the truth or you want to just kind of wishy-washy, and I don't want to deceive or be wishy-washy about how difficult it is if you're a girl in this business. You're going to really face a lot of challenges, but you got to go out there and fight for as long as you can.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but we're out of time.
We're out of time.
We are. And
Don't
there's so
get
much
me
more.
started talking about the music, and we didn't even talk about our dogs,
I wanted to talk about the dogs.
Well, that's all right. Thank you. It's
All
lovely
right.
to speak with you. Thank
Wonderful
you.
to speak with
Thank
you,
you.
and thank you so much for doing this.
Yes.
The lovely Michelle Wright, and I'm Linda Hellman for Canadian Beats.